Hi to all my friends. On my blog, I Take Joy. I'm going to be having a lot of new things coming your way through my blog in a week or two. But I just wanted to address the whole issue of fear and courage in very difficult times. The first time I really knew what fear was, I was a missionary in Eastern Europe. I was single, and I was sitting at a campsite, actually, at a retreat for some college students in Warsaw. And we turned the radio on, and we heard that tanks were moving into Warsaw, where we were living, that there was all sorts of conflict between Poland and Russia because of Lech Walesa. And we also heard that tanks were beginning to come from Yugoslavia. And I was tempted to be so fearful. And God began working those many years ago in my life to really teach me verses about what it looks like to be in a fearful world. We know from Scripture that it says there will be wars and rumors of wars in the last times. I don't know how close we are to the last times, but I know that we're closer than we were when Christ was here. But as I began to study through all of the different passages, it began to give me a whole different perspective on life. And it's so important when we have these precious children that we teach and model courage to them in a time in which we've been born. Because even as Esther was the woman with whom God entrusted the fate of the Israelites when they could have all been killed, her Mordecai said to her, "You've been born for such a time as this." Or how do we know if you have not been born for such a time as this? And so that's one of the perspectives I've come to. God knew all about history every day ahead of time before we were born, and He had good works designed for us to walk in. This might be the opportunity of your whole life to teach a whole generation what it looks like to trust in the living God. I know that I was in China speaking to a whole group of people with secret police standing in the back, and I thought, what in the world am I doing here? And God brought to my mind when David was facing the giant, and David said to the giant, "You come to me with sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts." And so every day when I hear something new, when I see something on the news or hear about it, I say to me, to the Lord within myself, the world comes to me with threats and with sword and spear, but I'm coming back to the world in the name of the Lord of hosts. One of my favorite verses is in Joshua. When Joshua had gotten through the desert, all of the great old generals had died, and he was facing a battle with this new, untrained army of Israelites. And 3 times in the first 9 verses of Joshua, God says to Joshua to be strong and courageous, not to be afraid, that He would be with him everywhere he goes. And one of the 3 times in that passage, He says, "Joshua, be strong and very courageous." What does it mean to be courageous? I think that a hero, someone who chooses to exercise courage, is in the same circumstances as many other people. And yet the one who exhibits courage is choosing not to operate by feelings, but by making a difference, by choosing to be courageous and heroic and do heroic things in a time when it is needed to serve the people in which he finds himself. I love the part in Lord of the Rings where Frodo goes to Gandalf and he says, "Gandalf, I wish I hadn't